Hey, Bio20, welcome to the video on blood and blood cells. So, you've already put the notes in your note package using the teacher copy. Now, I'm just going to run through some key pieces to add some extra stuff into your notes so you can just listen and follow along. If you haven't put in your notes from the teacher copy, listen to this video, then go back and put your notes in from the teacher copy. Don't try to copy it from here. I know it takes a long time, so let's try to keep this short and sweet. So, let's start with blood. Blood, what is it? What does it do? We kind of know those things. But essentially, guys, blood is sometimes what we call connective tissue. And that is simply because when blood is running around your body, it's linking your cells and your organs together. So, tissue, when you think like skin, you think like the tissue that covers your organs, you think something more solid. But it's still considered a tissue, even though it is a fluid, which is really interesting. So, we're going to talk about the different types of parts that are found within your blood. So most people consider red blood cells to be blood, but the truth of the matter is there's actually a couple components. So it's actually made up of three main things: the fluid portion, which makes it the liquidy portion, which we call plasma. Now, the interesting thing about plasma is it makes up about 55% of your blood. Now, it's made of water, proteins, platelets, hormones, nutrients, and waste. It's the fluid portion. When someone gets a blood transfusion, they actually take away, okay, the plasma portion of your blood. They centrifuge it out and they actually give you a transfusion of red blood cells. Okay, we're going to talk about that in a second here. Then we have what's called the solid portion. So the part that is actually picking up things and moving things around. And those are your leukocytes and your red blood cells. Okay, so leukocytes mean white blood cells. They're part of the immune response, and erythrocytes means red blood cells. So please make sure that you know those two names as they are key vocab words. So white blood cells are about 1% of your type of blood cells found in your body, make up 1%, sorry, of the portions of blood in your body, not types of cells, I apologize. Okay, and they have a specific function. They are for immune response only. Erythrocytes, or red blood cells, are these lovely little biconcave donut looking structures that actually have lots of things on them, antigens that attach up to antibodies, and they also have hemoglobin components, which carry oxygen, as well as Rh factors attached to them. So at this point, everything in your notes is found in the teacher notes, except for, which I need to move this now, this picture right here. So this picture right here is what you're going to add into your notes from this video. It's just drawing. Oh my goodness, what is going on? It is just drawing the portions of the blood into the test tube that is found in your notes. So red blood cells, that's the very first thing we're going to touch on. Again, this is from the teacher notes. You have it. So please, please, please enter it in before you do it. If not, just listen to this video and put it in after. So red blood cells, or erythrocytes, 44% of the blood, and they are specialized specifically for oxygen transport with something called hemoglobin. Now, red blood cells have hemoglobin, which is made out of iron. That's why your blood tastes kind of metallic-y if you have ever tasted it. Okay. And hemoglobin is a key portion of what attaches blood oxygen to your red blood cells. Now, without a lot of hemoglobin, we can actually become something called anemic, which means that you don't have enough oxygen being transported around your body. You get really tired and you feel like hungry. Sometimes you don't feel hungry at all. They say you have low iron in your body. And the reason is because you're not making enough hemoglobin. The other part to anemia is you're not producing enough red blood cells. So that's kind of interesting in the sense. So your red blood cells have 280 million iron-containing molecules known as hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is the answer today to all the questions. What is red blood? Hemoglobin. Just say hemoglobin. Okay, now that's important. So hemoglobin is what transports all that oxygen that we learned about, comes from your lungs all over your body. Now, the other side of the story is leukocytes. Now I gotta move this spot. There we go. So leukocytes, or white blood cells, as we refer to them, are broken into a couple different categories, and we're going to make a little flow chart of those. Essentially, white blood cells, or leukocytes, are meant for immune responses, and that is the whole point of the first half of this chapter, is all about immune responses. We are going to talk about what happens when a foreign invader enters your body. How does your body fight it? So we use things like granulocytes, which are neutrophils, basophils, eosinophils, and they circulate through your blood and they try and find foreign bodies to kind of get rid of. Then you have monocytes, which are in your bloodstream, but they further specialize into something called macrophages. Macrophages eat the virus, which is a huge part, and they engulf it. They do something called phagocytosis, where essentially they eat it and they digest it. Super cool. And then lymphocytes, or what we know as antibodies. Antibodies are going to become a key word in our vocabulary as well. They essentially incapacitate the pathogens they detect and destroy. Oh my goodness, my thing's not working today. So the last thing we're going to talk about is this lovely little portion in here as well. Along with white blood cells are the platelets. Now we're going to learn about the big part of platelets when we come back from Easter. Essentially, platelets deal with blood clotting. So when you cut yourself, it's actually the platelets that have a huge role in ensuring that blood is not leaking out of your hand for hours and hours and hours if you have just a simple paper cut. So that is the role of platelets. And that is the three parts of the blood. So what I want to talk about now, and my computer is being funny, is the types of blood cells. So this is in your notes. It's a flow chart just below the platelets. So just listen, pause it at the end, and add it in at the end. So again, why is this not working? So we have three different types: red blood cells, platelets, and white blood cells. All right. We're going to talk about white blood cells first. So white blood cells are broken into two categories: the lymphocytes and the category that we're going to call the eat and destroy category. All right. Now, the lymphocytes create antibodies and they look like this. You can see, I would add the pictures in as well, guys, because they're going to be important to remember. So you can see that a lymphocyte is a white blood cell, but it has a very large interior nucleus. Okay. It's quite large. It's quite dark in color. Okay. So antibodies are created, ladies and gentlemen, to help fight off diseases. Now, on the other side is the eat and destroy. Well, we have the monocytes or the macrophages, which can leave our bloodstreams, and they're more globular looking. As you can see, they're not a perfectly round circle, and the nucleus inside of it is like almost like a big blob of paint. Okay, macrophages actually move and crawl around, and they like shift and change their body. So, like if they're like this, they would open up and then shift and engulf something like that. They actually can move around and manipulate themselves. Granulocytes are the ones that stay in the body, and there's a couple different types: neutrophils, basophils, and eosinophils. Now, you'll notice the three differences between these, ladies and gentlemen, is neutrophils, okay, have three like little nucleuses inside. They're really tiny, okay. Same with basophils. They're a little darker in color. They look more purple, like a purple dot. And eosinophils actually look red under a microscope. And that's simply because of what's inside of them. But essentially, they all stay in the blood and they eat and destroy. So that is the flow chart that I want you to add to the bottom of the page with the blood. And you can make sure that you color those appropriately. Make sure you add pictures because we are going to have some questions about those specific types of blood cells. Have a great day.